If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to leave a like and comment below. Tell me what you think will happen next, and subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming chapters. Now, let's dive into this incredible story. The scream pierced through the marble halls of the Mendoza mansion like a knife through silk. Mariana Solis stopped dead in her tracks, her worn leather bag slipping from her shoulder. She had barely crossed the threshold of the enormous oak doors when the sound reached her, a child's cry so filled with agony that it made her nurse's instincts kick into overdrive. "That would be Valentina," said the elderly housekeeper who had greeted her, her voice carrying the exhaustion of someone who had heard that scream too many times. "The little one has her episodes." "Episodes?" Mariana's dark eyes narrowed. "What kind of episodes?" Before the woman could answer, a man's voice thundered from somewhere above them. "Where is the new nanny? She was supposed to be here 20 minutes ago." Mariana straightened her spine, smoothing down her simple white blouse. She had spent 3 hours on public transportation from her tiny apartment in Iztapalapa to reach this palace in the heart of Polanco, and she wasn't about to let some rich man's impatience shake her confidence. "I'm here," she called out, her voice steady, despite the chaos surrounding her. "And I'm not a nanny. I'm a licensed pediatric nurse." The man who descended the curved staircase looked exactly like the photo she had seen during her research. Rodrigo Mendoza, 38 years old, CEO of Grupo Mendoza, owner of the most exclusive hotel chain in Mexico. His dark suit probably cost more than everything Mariana owned combined. His jaw was set in a hard line, and his brown eyes swept over her with barely concealed disdain. "A nurse," he repeated, stopping 3 steps from the bottom, keeping himself physically above her. A power play, she recognized immediately. "The agency sent me a nurse dressed like she's going to a job interview at a corner store." Mariana felt her cheeks flush, but she refused to look away. "The agency sent you the only person willing to take this position after you fired 7 nannies in 4 months, Senor Mendoza. Perhaps if you spent less time criticizing my wardrobe and more time telling me about your daughter's condition, we could actually help her." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, perhaps. Or maybe just irritation at being spoken to like a human being instead of the demigod he clearly believed himself to be. Another scream echoed through the house, and Mariana didn't wait for permission. She pushed past him on the stairs, following the sound to a bedroom at the end of a long hallway. The door was open, revealing a room that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale, all pink canopies and stuffed animals and hand-painted murals of butterflies. In the center of an enormous bed, a small girl thrashed against silk sheets, her hands pressed against her temples. Her face was contorted in genuine pain, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Make it stop," she whimpered. "Please, please make it stop." Mariana was at her side in seconds, her hands gentle but firm as she assessed the child. "Valentina, my name is Mariana. I'm going to help you, okay? Can you tell me where it hurts?" "Here." The girl's tiny fingers pointed to a spot just behind her right ear. "It's always here. It burns and burns and nobody believes me." "I believe you, Corazon." Mariana's fingers moved carefully through the child's dark hair, searching for any sign of injury or abnormality. "I believe every word you say. What are you doing?" Rodrigo's voice came from the doorway, sharp with suspicion. "No one is supposed to touch her head. The doctor said the pain is psychological." "With all due respect, Senor Mendoza, psychological pain doesn't make a 6-year-old scream like she's being tortured." Mariana didn't look up from her examination. "When did these episodes start?" 8 months ago, right after." He stopped abruptly. "Right after what?" His jaw tightened. "Right after her mother died." Mariana finally looked at him, really looked, and saw something beneath the arrogance. A father who was terrified and had no idea how to show it. A man drowning in grief and responsibility, and hiding it all behind designer suits and cruel words. "I'm sorry for your loss," she said quietly. "But grief doesn't cause localized burning sensations behind the ear. Something else is happening here. Are you contradicting the opinions of the best neurologists in the country?" "I'm saying that sometimes the best neurologists miss what a pair of careful hands can find." She turned back to Valentina, whose sobs had quieted slightly at the gentle touch. "Sweetheart, I'm going to feel around your head very carefully. You tell me if anything hurts more than usual, okay?" The girl nodded, her wet eyes fixed on Mariana with something that looked desperately like hope. Mariana's fingers moved with practiced precision, the same hands that had spent 5 years in pediatric emergency rooms, the same hands that had been deemed too troublesome for Hospital Angeles, after she had dared to speak the truth about what she had witnessed there. And then she felt it. Just behind Valentina's right ear, hidden beneath her hairline, was a small, hard bump, no bigger than a grain of rice, but unmistakably foreign, unmistakably wrong. Mariana's blood ran cold. "Señor Mendoza," she said, keeping her voice carefully neutral for the child's sake. "I need to speak with you privately, immediately." Something in her tone must have conveyed the seriousness because he didn't argue. He simply nodded toward the hallway. Mariana squeezed Valentina's hand. "I'll be right back, Corazon. Try to rest." In the hallway, with the door partially closed, Mariana faced Rodrigo Mendoza with a gravity that made his superior smirk fade. "There's something implanted behind your daughter's ear," she said quietly. "Something that shouldn't be there. That's impossible. She's had MRIs, CT scans, everything. Those tests look for tumors, lesions, abnormalities in brain tissue. They don't always catch small foreign objects, especially if no one is looking for them." Mariana held his gaze. "Señor Mendoza, I don't know what that thing is or how it got there, but it's real. And based on your daughter's symptoms, it may be what's causing her pain." For the first time since she had arrived, Rodrigo Mendoza looked genuinely shaken. The mask of the powerful CEO cracked, revealing underneath a father who would burn the world down to protect his child. "How do I know you're not making this up?" His voice was hoarse. "How do I know you're not just another person trying to take advantage of my family?" Mariana reached into her bag and pulled out a worn folder, thrusting it toward him. "Because I lost everything I had when I refused to take advantage of patients. I was fired from Hospital Angeles for reporting a surgeon who was billing for procedures he never performed. I have nothing left to lose, Señor Mendoza. I'm not here for your money. I'm here because your daughter is in pain and nobody else seems to care enough to find out why." He took the folder, his eyes scanning the documents inside. Letters of recommendation, termination papers, a newspaper clipping about a whistleblower whose name had been kept anonymous but whose career had been effectively destroyed. "You're the one who exposed Dr. Villarreal," he said slowly. "I'm the one who told the truth. He's still practicing medicine in a private clinic while I'm taking jobs as a nanny because no hospital in Mexico City will touch me." She crossed her arms. "So you can fire me right now if you want. But first let me prove to you that I'm right about your daughter." The silence stretched between them, thick with tension and unspoken questions. Finally, Rodrigo Mendoza did something that clearly cost him a great deal of pride. He nodded. "Prove it," he said. "And if you're right, I'll make sure every person who missed this pays for what they've done to my little girl." Mariana didn't smile, but something in her chest loosened slightly. "I don't need them to pay. I just need your daughter to stop hurting." She turned to go back into the bedroom, but his hand caught her arm. His touch was surprisingly gentle, completely at odds with his harsh demeanor. "Why?" he asked. "Why do you care so much about a child you just met?" Mariana looked at his hand, then at his face. "Because someone should. Because she deserves it." She pulled her arm free. "And because I know what it's like to be in pain while everyone around you insists you're imagining it." She walked back into the pink bedroom, leaving Rodrigo Mendoza standing in the hallway with an expression she couldn't quite read. It might have been respect, it might have been something else entirely. Something that made her heart beat just a little faster than it should. But Mariana pushed that thought aside. She had work to do, a mystery to solve, a little girl to save. Everything else could wait. That night, after Valentina finally fell asleep with her small hand clutching Mariana's fingers, the nurse sat in the velvet chair beside the enormous bed and allowed herself to think about what she had discovered. The bump was real. The pain was real. And someone had put that device there deliberately. The question that kept her awake wasn't how or when. It was why. Why would anyone want to hurt this innocent child? What could possibly be gained from making a 6-year-old suffer? Through the window she could see the lights of Mexico City spreading out like a blanket of fallen stars. Somewhere out there in one of those glittering towers or shadowy clinics, someone had the answers she needed. Someone knew who had done this to Valentina and why. Mariana made herself a promise in that moment. She would find them. No matter what it cost her, no matter how powerful they turned out to be, she would uncover the truth and make them pay for every single tear this child had shed. 3 days into her new position, Mariana had established a routine that revolved entirely around Valentina. She slept in the room adjacent to the child's bedroom, ate her meals in the kitchen with the household staff, and spent every waking moment observing, documenting, and searching for answers. The bump behind Valentina's ear haunted her. She had photographed it, measured it, noted every detail she could without invasive examination. Whatever it was too precise, too deliberately placed to be an accident. "You're still here," Rodrigo said one evening, finding her in the library with medical journals spread across an antique table. Most people would have given up by now. Most people aren't as stubborn as I am. She didn't look up from the article she was reading about subcutaneous implant technology. "Your daughter had another episode this afternoon. Exactly at 3:15, just like yesterday and the day before. The doctors said the episodes are random. The doctors are wrong." Now she did look up, pushing her reading glasses up her nose. "They happen at the same time every day, almost to the minute. That's not random. That's scheduled." Rodrigo moved closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy that made her treacherous body want to lean in. She stayed firmly in her chair. "Scheduled by whom?" he asked. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." She gestured to the journals. "There are devices, experimental ones mostly, that can be implanted subcutaneously and controlled remotely. They're used for everything from drug delivery to neural stimulation." "You think someone implanted something in my daughter's head to hurt her on purpose?" "I think someone implanted something in your daughter's head, and I don't believe it was for her benefit." Mariana hesitated. "Señor Mendoza, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly." "Go ahead." "Your wife's death, the accident. Are you absolutely certain it was an accident?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Rodrigo's expression closed off completely, becoming the cold mask of the CEO she had met that first day. "My wife drove off a cliff in Acapulco during a storm," he said flatly. "Her body was recovered 3 days later. There was nothing suspicious about it except the tragedy of losing her so young." "Was she? Was she the kind of mother who would have noticed something wrong with Valentina?" "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm trying to understand the timeline. The episode started 8 months ago, right after your wife died. Either the device was implanted around that time or it was activated around that time." Mariana stood up, needing the physical movement to think clearly. "Did Valentina have any medical procedures in the weeks before or after her mother's death? Anything at all, even something minor?" Rodrigo was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "There was a wellness check, at a private clinic. My mother insisted on it after Camilla died. She said Valentina needed to be evaluated for emotional trauma." "Which clinic?" "I don't remember the name. My mother handled everything. I was in no state to manage the details." Mariana felt a chill run down her spine. "I need to speak with your mother." "Absolutely not. Señor Mendoza, my mother is a difficult woman who has never approved of any decision I've made in my entire life. If I tell her that the new nanny thinks there's a conspiracy involving my dead wife and my sick daughter, she will have you thrown out of this house before you can finish the sentence." "Then don't tell her that." Mariana moved closer to him, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. "Tell her you want copies of all of Valentina's medical records. Tell her you're seeking a second opinion. Tell her whatever you need to tell her, but get me those records." "Why should I trust you?" The question came out softer than intended, almost vulnerable. "Because I haven't asked you for money. Because I haven't sold this story to the tabloids. Because I've spent the last 3 days sleeping 4 hours a night trying to figure out what's hurting your daughter." She held his gaze. "And because you know, somewhere deep down, that I'm right." They stood there closer than propriety allowed, the air between them charged with something neither of them wanted to acknowledge. Mariana could see the war playing out on his face, the instinct to protect his family battling with the desperate need to help his child. "My mother's name is Patricia Mendoza de Guerrero," he finally said. "She lives in the east wing of this house. She takes tea every afternoon at 4 in the garden. She despises weakness, sentimentality, and anyone she considers beneath her station, which is essentially everyone. Sounds delightful. She'll eat you alive. Then I'd better bring sharp teeth." Mariana gathered her journals. "I'll speak with her tomorrow. I didn't give you permission. I wasn't asking." She stopped at the library door. "But for what it's worth, Señor Mendoza, I think your daughter is lucky to have a father who's willing to question the experts. Most people would have accepted the diagnosis and medicated her into silence." Something shifted in his expression. "You can call me Rodrigo," he said quietly. "If we're going to be co-conspirators in whatever this is, we might as well use first names." "Rodrigo." She tested it on her tongue. "Then you can call me Mariana." "I already do. In my head." The confession hung in the air between them, unexpected and somehow intimate. Mariana felt heat rise to her cheeks and retreated quickly into the hallway, her heart pounding for reasons that had nothing to do with medical mysteries. Behind her, she heard him say, so softly she almost missed it, "Be careful with my mother. She destroys everything she touches." The next afternoon, Mariana presented herself in the garden wearing the most professional outfit she owned, a navy blue dress that she had bought for job interviews during her desperate months of unemployment. Patricia Mendoza de Guerrero sat beneath a white canopy, surrounded by roses that matched the blood red of her lipstick. "So you're the new girl," Patricia said without preamble. "The nurse who thinks she knows better than doctors?" "I'm the nurse who thinks your granddaughter deserves more than dismissal and sedatives." Patricia's eyes, the same brown as her son's but infinitely colder, assessed Mariana with surgical precision. "You have backbone. I'll give you that. The last 7 nannies didn't even make it to the garden before they were crying in the kitchen." "I don't cry easily, Senora." "No, I imagine you don't." Patricia gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit. You came here to interrogate me, so let's get on with it." Mariana sat, keeping her posture straight. "I came to ask about Valentina's wellness check after her mother's death, the clinic where it was performed. The Clinica Santa Elena in Coyoacan. Excellent reputation, discreet. And what exactly did this wellness check involve?" "The usual. Physical examination, psychological evaluation, blood work." Patricia's perfectly manicured fingers tapped against her teacup. "Why do you ask?" "Because your granddaughter has something implanted behind her ear that wasn't there before, and I'm trying to establish when it was placed." For a fraction of a second, something flickered across Patricia's face. It was gone so quickly that Mariana almost convinced herself she had imagined it. Almost. "That's quite an accusation," Patricia said smoothly. "Do you have proof?" "I have a bump that I can feel with my fingers, and a little girl who screams in pain every day at exactly 3:15. Mariana leaned forward. "What I don't have yet is the why, but I'm going to find it." Patricia set down her teacup with deliberate care. "You know what I find interesting about you, Señorita Salas? You walk into my home, you make outrageous claims about my granddaughter, and you seem to expect me to simply accept your word for it. I expect you to want the truth. She's your blood." "She is." Patricia's voice hardened almost imperceptibly. "Which is why I'll be watching you very carefully. If you're genuinely trying to help Valentina, I'll support you. But if you're here to cause trouble for my family, to dig up things better left buried, I will end you. Not your career, not your reputation. You. Do we understand each other?" Mariana met the older woman's gaze without flinching. "Perfectly. Good." Patricia smiled, a cold thing that didn't reach her eyes. "Then we should get along just fine." As Mariana left the garden, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just walked into something far bigger than a medical mystery. Patricia Mendoza knew something. The flicker on her face when Mariana mentioned the implant had been recognition, not surprise. The question was, what side was she on? 1 week turned into 2, 2 weeks turned into a month, and somewhere along the way, without either of them noticing, Rodrigo Mendoza and Mariana Solis had developed a routine of their own. Every evening after Valentina was asleep, they would meet in the library. Rodrigo would bring coffee from the expensive machine in his study. Mariana would bring her notes and theories. They would talk until midnight, sometimes later, about implants and clinics and conspiracies, but also about other things. Smaller things. Human things. "You're smiling," Rodrigo observed one night, looking up from the financial reports he was pretending to read. "That's new. Valentina drew me a picture today." Mariana held up a crayon masterpiece of what appeared to be a nurse with extremely large hair fighting a dragon. "Apparently I'm a superhero now. The hair is accurate, at least." "Excuse me, my hair is perfectly normal. Your hair is a force of nature, it has its own weather system." He was smiling now too, the real smile that she had discovered he saved for moments when his guard was completely down. "She's getting better, isn't she? The episodes are less intense since I figured out the timing. We've been using distraction techniques during the worst of it, and she's responding well." Mariana hesitated. "But they haven't stopped. Whatever that device is doing, it's still active. We need to find out who's controlling it." The smile faded from Rodrigo's face. The clinic records were a dead end. Clinica Santa Elena closed 6 months ago. All their files were supposedly transferred to a storage facility that conveniently burned down last month. Convenient indeed. "My investigators found something else." He pulled a folder from his briefcase. "Camilla's credit card statements from the month before she died. She made 3 large payments to a company called Neurotech Solutions. I've never heard of them, and neither has anyone in my network." Mariana took the folder, scanning the documents. The payments were substantial, over 2 million pesos in total. Did Camila have access to that kind of money independently? She had her own accounts, family money from her father's side. She could spend it however she wanted. Rodrigo's voice was tight. We didn't discuss finances. She said it was unromantic. What else did she say was unromantic? Questions about her family, her past, her friends from before we met. He laughed bitterly. I was so in love with her that I didn't care. I thought her mystery was part of her charm. And now? Now I'm starting to wonder if I ever really knew her at all. Mariana set down the folder and, without thinking, reached across the table to cover his hand with hers. It was meant to be a gesture of comfort, nothing more. But the moment their skin touched, something electric passed between them. Rodrigo's eyes met hers, and she saw in them a hunger that matched her own, a hunger that had been building for weeks, hidden beneath professional boundaries and shared purpose. Mariana, her name on his lips sounded like a prayer. We should stop. Stop what? This, whatever this is. He didn't pull his hand away. You work for me. It's inappropriate. I work for your daughter. She should let go. She knew she should let go. And you're right. This is a terrible idea. The worst idea I've ever had. Absolutely catastrophic. Neither of them moved. The library door flew open and they sprang apart like teenagers caught by a parent. But it wasn't Patricia or a servant who stood in the doorway. It was Elena Vasquez, Rodrigo's executive assistant, her face pale with alarm. Sir, we have a problem. A woman is at the gate claiming to be your wife. Rodrigo went completely still. My wife is dead. She has identification, sir, and she knows things, private things. The security team doesn't know what to do with her. Mariana watched the color drain from Rodrigo's face. She watched his hands begin to shake. She watched a man who had seemed so powerful, so invincible, crumble before her eyes at the possibility that everything he believed had been a lie. Bring her in, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Bring her to the formal living room and call my lawyer. Rodrigo, Mariana touched his arm. Whatever happens, I'm here. He looked at her, and for a moment, all the walls came down. She saw the scared boy underneath the billionaire, the grieving husband who had never fully processed his loss, the father who would do anything to protect his daughter. Stay with Valentina, he said. Don't let her out of your sight. If Camila is really alive, if she's been alive this whole time while our daughter suffered. His jaw tightened. I need to know that Valentina is safe. Mariana nodded and headed for the stairs, but she stopped halfway up when she heard the front door open. She couldn't help herself. She had to see. The woman who walked into the Mendoza mansion looked like a ghost, tall and elegant with the kind of beauty that belonged in fashion magazines. She carried herself with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what she was doing and didn't care who got hurt in the process. But it was her eyes that made Mariana's blood run cold. Those eyes swept the foyer with possessive familiarity, passed over Rodrigo with something that might have been triumph, and landed on Mariana with undisguised hostility. Who is that? The woman asked, her voice dripping with aristocratic disdain. The nanny, Rodrigo answered. She looks at you like she's more than a nanny. The woman smiled, and it was the coldest smile Mariana had ever seen. We'll have to do something about that. Mariana fled up the stairs, her heart pounding. She had faced down hospital administrators, corrupt doctors, and Patricia Mendoza herself. But something about the woman downstairs terrified her in a way she couldn't explain. In Valentina's room, the little girl was awake, sitting up in bed with wide, frightened eyes. I heard voices, she whispered. Is someone here? Mariana sat on the edge of the bed and pulled Valentina into her arms. It's nothing for you to worry about, Corazon. Just some adult business. It sounded like Mommy. The words were so soft, so hopeful, so devastating. I know Mommy is in heaven, but sometimes I dream that she comes back. Is it a bad dream or a good dream to want that? Mariana held the child tighter, trying to shield her from the storm that was coming. It's not bad to want your Mommy back. It's the most natural thing in the world. Will you stay with me tonight? I don't want to be alone. I'll stay. Mariana kissed the top of Valentina's head. I'm not going anywhere. But even as she said it, she knew that everything was about to change. The woman downstairs, the one who claimed to be Camila Mendoza, held answers to questions Mariana hadn't even known to ask. And somehow, she was certain, those answers were connected to the tiny device behind Valentina's ear. Downstairs, Mariana could hear voices rising in argument. Rodrigo's deep baritone clashing with a woman's sharp soprano. She couldn't make out the words, but the emotion was clear. Anger, accusation, betrayal. When she finally got Valentina back to sleep, Mariana crept to the door and cracked it open, listening. The argument had moved to the study directly below. Through the vents, fragments of conversation drifted up like smoke. Faked my death for your own good. You let our daughter suffer. The implant was necessary, you don't understand. Mariana's breath caught. The implant. Camila had mentioned the implant. She knew about it. She had known all along. She reached for her phone to record the conversation, but before she could press the button, she heard footsteps on the stairs. Heavy footsteps, deliberate and threatening. Mariana barely had time to close the door and step away before it burst open. Two men in dark suits stood in the doorway, their faces blank and professional. "Miss Solis?" one of them said. "You need to come with us, now. I'm not leaving Valentina." That wasn't a request. Behind them, Camila Mendoza appeared, still wearing that cold, triumphant smile. "Don't make this difficult, little nurse. You've been meddling in things you don't understand. It's time for you to go. Rodrigo won't let you do this. Rodrigo is currently learning some very difficult truths about his marriage, his business, and his family." Camila stepped closer, close enough for Mariana to see the cruelty in her eyes. "By the time he's done processing everything I've told him, you'll be nothing but a distant memory, a footnote in a story that was never about you." Mariana looked past her, through the open door, hoping to see Rodrigo coming to her defense. But the hallway was empty. She was alone. "Valentina needs me," she said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. "Whatever you're planning, whatever this is about, that little girl is innocent." Something flickered in Camilla's expression. For just a moment, she almost looked human. "Valentina will be fine. She's my daughter, after all. A daughter you abandoned. A daughter you've been torturing with that device in her head." The humanity vanished, replaced by something far darker. "Take her," Camilla said to the men, "and make sure she doesn't come back." As they grabbed her arms, as they dragged her away from the room where Valentina slept peacefully, Mariana made a vow. She would find a way back. She would expose whatever conspiracy Camilla was running. She would save Valentina, even if it cost her everything. Because somewhere in the past month, between the medical mysteries and the midnight conversations, between the arguments and the almost moments, Mariana Solis had fallen hopelessly in love with both the daughter and the father, and she wasn't going to let either of them go without a fight. The last thing she saw before they took her out into the night was Rodrigo's silhouette in a second-floor window, watching her go with an expression she couldn't read from this distance. She hoped it was regret. She prayed it wasn't relief, and she promised herself that this wasn't the end, it was only the beginning. The night air was cold against her skin as they pushed her through the service entrance. The city sprawled before her, indifferent to her fate. But Mariana Solis had survived worse. She would survive this too, and then she would return for them both. The cold streets of Polanco had never felt so unwelcoming. Mariana walked for what felt like hours, her mind racing with everything she had learned, everything she had lost. The security guards had deposited her at the gate with nothing but her worn leather bag and a warning never to return. The December wind cut through her thin blouse like a knife, but she barely felt it. The cold inside her was far worse. But returning was exactly what she intended to do. She found a 24-hour cafe near Parque Lincoln and ordered the cheapest coffee on the menu, spreading her notes across the small table. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows across the documents she had managed to salvage. Neurotech Solutions, Clinica Santa Elena, Camila Mendoza. The pieces of the puzzle were all there. She just needed to figure out how they fit together. Her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Miss Solis?" The voice was unfamiliar, female and urgent. "My name is Dr. Lucia Fernandez. I used to work at Clinica Santa Elena. I heard you've been asking questions about a certain patient." Mariana's heart began to pound. "How did you get this number?" "I have connections. More importantly, I have information you need. The device in the Mendoza girl's head, I helped design it. Not for this purpose, never for this purpose, but I know what it does and I know who's controlling it." "Why are you telling me this?" There was a long pause. "Because I have a daughter too, and what they're doing to that child is monstrous." Another pause. "Meet me at the Museo Sumaya tomorrow at noon. Come alone. And Miss Solis, be careful. The people behind this have eyes everywhere." The line went dead. Mariana stared at her phone, her hands trembling. Finally, a lead. Finally, someone who might have the answers she needed. But could she trust this mysterious doctor? And even if she could, What good would information do if she couldn't get back inside the Mendoza mansion? She thought of Valentina, asleep in that enormous pink bed, dreaming of a mother who had abandoned her. She thought of Rodrigo, watching her being dragged away without lifting a finger to stop it. The memory stung more than she wanted to admit. Had she imagined the connection between them? Had those midnight conversations meant nothing? Had he simply been using her to solve his daughter's medical mystery, discarding her the moment his supposedly dead wife reappeared? No, she refused to believe that. The way he had looked at her, the way his hand had felt on hers, the almost kiss in the library, those things had been real. Whatever was happening now, whatever lies Camilla was feeding him, Mariana had to believe that the man she had come to know was still in there somewhere. She had to believe it, because the alternative was too painful to consider. The next morning, Mariana arrived at the Museo Sumaya an hour early, positioning herself near the entrance with a clear view of all approaches. The iconic silver building gleamed in the winter sunlight, tourists flowing in and out like a river of anonymity. At exactly noon, a woman in her 50s approached, her graying hair pulled back in a severe bun, her eyes hidden behind dark glasses. She walked past Mariana without looking at her and murmured, "Follow me. Don't look back." They wound through the museum's galleries, past Rodin's sculptures and Renaissance paintings, until they reached a quiet corner near the emergency exit. Only then did the woman remove her glasses, revealing eyes that held the haunted look of someone who had seen too much. The device is called a neural stimulator. Dr. Fernandez began without preamble. It was originally developed for treating chronic pain conditions, a small implant that delivers electrical signals to specific nerve clusters, but Neurotech discovered it could also be used to cause pain, intense, localized, and completely untraceable by conventional medical imaging. Why would anyone want to cause pain to a child? Control. The doctor's voice was bitter. The device can be activated remotely on a schedule or on demand. It creates a dependency. The victim becomes conditioned to do whatever is necessary to avoid triggering the pain. In an adult, it could be used for coercion, blackmail, torture. In a child, she shook her head. In a child, it creates a bond with whoever appears to make the pain stop. Mariana felt sick. Camilla is controlling it. She wants Valentina to need her, to see her as the only one who can help. That's my assumption, yes. Mrs. Mendoza approached Neurotech 18 months ago, before her supposed death. She funded the development of a miniaturized version of the device, specifically designed to be undetectable. The implantation was performed at Clinica Santa Elena during what was listed as a routine wellness check. Valentina's grandmother arranged that check. Dr. Fernandez nodded slowly. Patricia Mendoza de Guerrero. She's been involved from the beginning. The whole thing, the faked death, the implant, everything, it's all part of a plan to gain control of the Mendoza fortune. But Camilla was already married to Rodrigo. She already had access to his money. Not all of it. Rodrigo's father wrote a very specific will. The bulk of the Mendoza empire goes to the eldest grandchild on their 18th birthday, held in trust until then. Valentina is the sole heir. Whoever has custody of Valentina controls billions of pesos. The pieces finally clicked into place. Camilla faked her death to escape the marriage, but she couldn't take Valentina with her without a custody battle she might lose. So she implanted the device, waited until Valentina was suffering enough that Rodrigo would be desperate, and then returned as the miracle cure. She'll claim she faked her death to escape an abusive marriage. She'll say she only came back because she heard her daughter was suffering. She'll present herself as the devoted mother who gave up everything for her child. And when Valentina's pain mysteriously stops the moment Camilla takes over her care, it will seem like proof of her devotion. We have to tell Rodrigo. He won't believe you. Camilla has already poisoned him against you. She's shown him evidence, fabricated but convincing, that you were planted by a rival company to destabilize his family. Your history of whistleblowing makes you an easy target. She's painted you as a professional troublemaker who sees conspiracies everywhere. Mariana's fists clenched. Then what do I do? Dr. Fernandez reached into her bag and pulled out a small device, no larger than a smartphone. This is a signal jammer, specifically calibrated to block the frequency Neurotech uses to communicate with the neural stimulator. Get close enough to Valentina with this active and her pain episodes will stop. That will be your proof. How close? Within 10 meters. Close enough that you'll need to get back inside the mansion. The doctor pressed the device into Mariana's hands. I can't help you with that part. My involvement ends here. If Neurotech discovers I've betrayed them, my family will pay the price. Why did you help me at all, Doctor? Fernandez smiled sadly. Because some sins require confession. Because I helped create this monster and I can't undo that. But maybe I can help stop it. She began to walk away, then paused. One more thing. The device has a failsafe. If it detects jamming for more than 48 hours, it will deliver a massive surge of electricity. Enough to cause permanent damage, possibly death. You don't just need to block the signal. You need to get that implant out of that child's head. She disappeared into the crowd of tourists, leaving Mariana alone with a device that could save Valentina's life or end it, depending on how the next 2 days unfolded. That evening, Mariana sat in her tiny apartment in Iztapalapa, staring at the signal jammer on her kitchen table. The space was cramped and humble, a far cry from the marble halls of the Mendoza mansion, but it was hers. It was the only thing in her life that was truly hers. Her phone rang. Unknown number again. She answered cautiously. Mariana. Rodrigo's voice, strained and exhausted, came through the line. Don't hang up, please. She should hang up. Every rational part of her brain screamed at her to hang up, but her heart, her stupid, traitorous heart, kept the phone pressed to her ear. Why are you calling me? Shouldn't your wife be monitoring your communications? She's not my wife, not anymore. I'm filing for divorce in the morning. How touching. Did you call to share the good news? I called because I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. I let them take you and I've regretted it every second since. His voice cracked. Valentina won't stop asking for you. She had 3 episodes today. 3. And nothing I do helps. Nothing anyone does helps except you. Maybe you should ask Camilla to help. She seems to have all the answers. Camilla is a liar. I don't know what the truth is yet, but I know that much. The woman who walked into my house isn't the woman I married. There's something wrong with her. Something cold. And I was too shocked to see it at first. Mariana closed her eyes. She wanted to believe him. God, how she wanted to believe him. I have information, she said finally, about what's really happening to Valentina, but I need to get back inside the mansion to prove it. Tell me what you need. I need you to trust me, completely without question. The silence stretched for a long moment. When Rodrigo spoke again, his voice was firm. I trust you. I don't know why. I barely know you. But I trust you more than I've trusted anyone in years. Tell me what to do. The plan was simple in theory, terrifying in execution. Rodrigo would arrange for Camilla to be occupied with a meeting with her lawyers, supposedly to discuss the terms of her return to the family. Meanwhile, Mariana would enter through the service entrance, get close enough to Valentina to activate the signal jammer, and prove once and for all that the pain was being caused externally. What they hadn't counted on was Patricia. Mariana was halfway up the service stairs when she heard the older woman's voice behind her. I knew you'd come back. Loyalty like yours is rare, stupid, but rare. She turned slowly to find Patricia Mendoza de Guerrero standing in the doorway, her face unreadable. 2 security guards flanked her, their hands resting on their holstered weapons. I'm not here to cause trouble, Mariana said carefully. I'm here to help Valentina. I know exactly why you're here. The question is whether I'm going to let you succeed. Patricia moved closer, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Did you really think I didn't know about Neurotech? About the device? I've known from the beginning. Mariana's blood ran cold. You helped Camilla torture your own granddaughter. I helped ensure the future of this family. Patricia's voice was sharp as broken glass. Do you have any idea what Rodrigo was going to do before Camilla stopped him? He was going to donate half the company to charity. Half. Billions of pesos that should go to his children, his legacy, thrown away on strangers. So you conspired with his wife to implant a torture device in his daughter's head? I conspired to protect what belongs to us. Patricia's eyes narrowed. Camilla promised the device would only be used temporarily, just long enough to establish her as Valentina's primary caregiver. Once she had custody, once the fortune was secure, she would deactivate it. And you believed her? Something flickered across Patricia's face. Doubt, perhaps, or shame. I believed she loved Valentina. In her own way. She's been activating that device every day, multiple times a day. Your granddaughter screams in agony while you sit in your garden drinking tea and telling yourself it's for the family's good. Mariana stepped forward, her fear burning away into righteous fury. You're a monster. Both of you are monsters. Patricia flinched as if she'd been struck. I didn't know. The episodes were supposed to stop once Camilla returned. She said. She lied. She's been lying from the start. And now there's a failsafe in that device that could kill Valentina if we don't get it out in the next 36 hours. The color drained from Patricia's face. Whatever her crimes, whatever her complicity, she clearly hadn't known about that. What do you need? The words came out hoarse, broken. I need to get to Valentina, and then I need a surgeon who can remove the implant without asking questions. Patricia straightened her spine, the mask of the aristocrat sliding back into place. But her eyes, those cold brown eyes, had changed. They held something that might have been the beginning of redemption. I know a surgeon, the same one who implanted the device. He owes me several favors, and he values his medical license more than his loyalty to Neurotech. She nodded to the security guards. Let her pass, and then find my daughter-in-law. We have business to discuss. The guards stepped aside, their faces unreadable, and Mariana ran. Her footsteps echoed through the marble corridors she had come to know so well during her brief time in this house, past the library where she and Rodrigo had shared their midnight conversations, past the formal dining room where she had never been invited to eat, past all the reminders of the life that had almost been hers. She found Valentina in her bedroom, curled in a ball on the enormous pink bed, her small body shaking with sobs that had long since run out of tears. The moment she saw Mariana, she launched herself across the room and into her arms. You came back. You came back. I knew you would come back. Mariana held her tight, fumbling in her pocket for the signal jammer. I'm here, Corazon. I'm here, and I'm going to make the pain stop, I promise. She activated the device. For a long moment, nothing happened. Valentina continued to tremble in her arms, her breathing ragged and desperate. Then slowly, the tension began to drain from her small body. Her breathing evened out. Her grip on Mariana's shirt loosened. It stopped, she whispered, wonder in her voice. Mari, it stopped. The burning stopped. Mariana felt tears streaming down her own face. I know, baby. I know. It's going to be okay now. The bedroom door burst open, and Camila Mendoza stood in the doorway, her beautiful face twisted with rage. Behind her, Rodrigo appeared, his expression torn between fury and fear. What have you done? Camila demanded. What is that device? Give it to me. She lunged forward, but Rodrigo caught her arm, holding her back with surprising strength. No, you don't touch either of them. Rodrigo, that woman is interfering with Valentina's treatment. She's making everything worse. Can't you see she's been manipulating you from the start? The only manipulator here is you. His voice was ice. I just got off the phone with my mother. She told me everything. The Neurotech payments, the implant, the plan to steal my daughter and my fortune. For a fraction of a second, Camilla's mask slipped, revealing the calculating predator beneath. Then she laughed, a cold, brittle sound that filled the room like shattered glass. Your mother, of course. The old witch finally developed a conscience. She pulled her arm free from Rodrigo's grip. It doesn't matter. I have lawyers, evidence, a documented history of being a devoted mother. Who are they going to believe, me or a disgraced nurse and a bitter mother-in-law? They're going to believe the medical records from the surgeon who's removing the implant tonight. Patricia's voice came from behind Camilla, steady and implacable. And the sworn testimony I'm prepared to give about your conspiracy, and the financial records showing your payments to Neurotech. Camilla spun to face her former co-conspirator. You wouldn't. You're as guilty as I am. I'm guiltier. I betrayed my own blood for money and pride. But I'm done. Patricia moved past her to stand beside Rodrigo. Whatever happens to me, whatever I deserve, my granddaughter will be free of you. For a long moment, Camilla stood frozen, calculating her options. Then, with a snarl of pure hatred, she turned and fled down the hallway. Let her go, Rodrigo said when the security guards moved to follow. The police are already on their way. She won't get far. He crossed the room to where Mariana still held Valentina, kneeling beside them on the soft carpet. His eyes met Mariana's, and in them she saw everything he couldn't yet say. Gratitude, remorse, and something deeper, something that made her heart skip despite everything that had happened. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for not giving up on her, on us. I couldn't. Her voice was thick with emotion. I tried. Believe me, I tried. But some things are worth fighting for, even when the fight seems impossible. Valentina looked up at both of them, her small face still pale but no longer twisted in pain. Is the burning going to come back? No, mi amor. Rodrigo stroked her hair gently. We're going to take you to a very good doctor who's going to make sure you never hurt like that again. Will Mariana come too? If she wants to. He looked at Mariana, and this time there was no CEO arrogance, no billionaire pride, just a man asking a question he was afraid to hear the answer to. Mariana smiled through her tears. Wild horses couldn't keep me away. The surgery took 4 hours. Mariana and Rodrigo sat in the private waiting room of Hospital ABC, their hands intertwined, neither speaking. There was nothing to say that hadn't already been said in looks, in touches, in the shared terror of waiting to learn if the child they both loved would survive. Patricia sat across from them, aging visibly with each passing minute. Whatever sins she had committed, whatever justifications she had constructed, they had crumbled in the face of her granddaughter's suffering. She would face legal consequences for her role in the conspiracy. She had already accepted that. But for now, all that mattered was Valentina. When Dr. Morales finally emerged, still in his surgical scrubs, all 3 of them jumped to their feet. "The implant has been successfully removed," he said, and the words hit Mariana like a wave of warm sunlight. There was some minor nerve damage from the repeated electrical stimulations, but it should heal completely with time. "She's going to be fine." Rodrigo made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Without thinking, he pulled Mariana into his arms, burying his face in her hair. She held him just as tightly, feeling his heart pound against hers, feeling the release of tension that had been building for weeks. "Thank you," he murmured against her ear. "Thank you for saving my daughter. Thank you for saving me." "You saved yourself," she said softly. "You chose to trust me when everything told you not to. You chose love over pride." He pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. "I want to choose love again, every day, for the rest of my life, if you'll let me. Rodrigo, we barely know each other. I know everything I need to know." His hands cupped her face gently. "I know you're brave and stubborn and brilliant. I know you'd risk everything for a child who isn't even yours. I know that when I'm with you, I feel like the man I always wanted to be, instead of the man my family expected me to become." That's quite a speech for a man who called me a corner store employee the first time we met. He winced. "I was hoping we could forget that part. Not a chance. I plan to remind you of it regularly for the next 50 years. His eyes widened. 50 years? Mariana smiled, the first real smile she had allowed herself in days. "At least. I'm very stubborn, remember? Once I commit to something, I don't give up easily." "Is that a yes?" "That's a, let's start with dinner and see where it goes. I believe in earning things, Señor Mendoza, including your heart. You already have it." He leaned down and kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. "You've had it since you pushed past me on those stairs and ran to help my daughter without a single thought for yourself." Behind them, Patricia cleared her throat. "If you two are quite finished, I'd like to see my granddaughter." They broke apart, both blushing like teenagers. But Rodrigo kept his hand in Mariana's as they followed the doctor to Valentina's recovery room. The little girl was awake, groggy, but smiling. When she saw them all crowded in the doorway, her smile grew even wider. "Papi, Mari, Abuela." She reached out her arms, and suddenly the room was full of people hugging and crying and laughing all at once. "How do you feel, Corazon?" Mariana asked, smoothing the hair back from Valentina's face. "Weird. Empty, but good empty." She touched the bandage behind her ear. "The bad thing is gone? Forever," Rodrigo promised. "No one will ever hurt you like that again. And Mommy?" Her voice was small, uncertain. The lady who said she was Mommy. The adults exchanged glances. It was Patricia who spoke, kneeling beside the bed with difficulty, her arthritic knees protesting. "That woman wasn't your real Mommy, Michielo. Your real Mommy loved you very much, but she got confused and made some bad choices. The important thing is that you're safe now, with people who love you and will always protect you." Valentina considered this with the gravity only a 6-year-old can muster. Then she nodded. "Okay, but can Mariana be my new Mommy? I like her better anyway." Rodrigo choked on a laugh. Mariana felt her face flush crimson. "We'll have to discuss that," she managed. "These things take time. Grown-ups always say that. Time, time, time." Valentina yawned. "But I already decided. You're my Mommy now. Papi can marry you later when he's done being stubborn." "I'm not stubborn," Rodrigo protested. All 3 women in the room looked at him with identical expressions of disbelief. "Fine, maybe a little stubborn, but I'm working on it." 6 months later, in a garden filled with roses and fairy lights, Rodrigo Mendoza married Mariana Solis in front of 200 guests and one very excited flower girl who had personally selected every bloom. The ceremony was held at the Mendoza estate, but not in the cold, formal gardens that Patricia had always maintained. Instead, they chose the smaller, wilder garden behind the servants' quarters, a place Mariana had discovered during her early morning walks. Valentina had declared it magical, and magical it became, transformed with thousands of tiny lights and cascading flowers into something out of a dream. The wedding was elegant but unpretentious, a reflection of the new direction both their lives had taken. Rodrigo had stepped back from day-to-day operations at Grupo Mendoza, bringing in a management team that shared his evolving values about corporate responsibility and charitable giving. The foundation he had created in Valentina's name was already funding research into ethical medical technology, ensuring that devices like the one that had caused her so much pain would never be used to harm children again. Mariana had returned to nursing, not at a prestigious private hospital, but at a community clinic in Iztapalapa where she had grown up. She split her time between the clinic and the Mendoza household, bringing the same fierce devotion to both roles. Patricia Mendoza de Guerrero had pleaded guilty to conspiracy charges and received a suspended sentence, her cooperation with prosecutors and her age working in her favor. Her relationship with Rodrigo remained complicated, but she had thrown herself into making amends, funding shelters for abused women and children, using her social connections for good instead of manipulation. As for Camilla, she had been arrested trying to board a private plane to Europe. The evidence against her was overwhelming, and she was currently awaiting trial on charges that would likely keep her in prison for decades. Neurotech Solutions had been shut down, its executives facing their own legal consequences. "You're thinking again," Rodrigo murmured in Mariana's ear as they swayed together on the dance floor. "I can always tell. You get this little crinkle right here." He touched the space between her eyebrows. "I'm thinking about how strange life is. 6 months ago, I was a disgraced nurse taking a job as a nanny because no one else would hire me. Now I'm married to a billionaire with a daughter who insists on calling me mommy. Do you regret it?" Not for a second. She looked up at him, this man who had transformed from arrogant CEO to devoted husband and father. "But sometimes I wonder if I deserve it." "You deserve everything." He kissed her forehead. "You deserve the world, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to give it to you. I don't need the world. I just need this. You, Valentina, a purpose. That's enough." "Enough isn't really my style." He grinned, and there was a hint of the old arrogance in it, but tempered now with warmth. "I prefer excessive, overwhelming, ridiculously over the top. I've noticed. The ice sculpture shaped like a castle was a subtle hint. Valentina picked that out. Valentina picks out a lot of things, including my wedding dress, apparently. She has excellent taste. Gets it from her new mother." Mariana laughed, the sound carrying across the garden where their guests mingled and celebrated. Somewhere in the crowd, Valentina was showing off her flower girl dress to anyone who would look, healthy and happy, and completely free of the pain that had once defined her existence. "I love you," Mariana said, the words still feeling new and precious on her tongue. "I love you, and I love our daughter, and I love this ridiculous, complicated, beautiful life we're building together. Even the castle ice sculpture, especially the castle ice sculpture. It's excessive, overwhelming, and ridiculously over the top." She smiled. "Just like you." He kissed her then, properly, in front of everyone, and she kissed him back without a single thought for propriety or social class, or any of the barriers that had once seemed so insurmountable. Because love, real love, didn't care about barriers. It didn't care about the past or the pain or the impossibility of two people from different worlds finding each other. It only cared about the choice to keep fighting, keep believing, keep showing up for each other day after day. And that was a choice Mariana Solis, now Mariana Mendoza, would make every single day for the rest of her life. As the stars came out over Mexico City and the music played on, and their daughter danced with her grandmother in a scene that would have seemed impossible just months ago, Mariana knew with absolute certainty that she had found what she had been searching for all along. Not wealth, not status, not even vindication for all the injustices she had suffered. Just love, pure, complicated, hard-won love. And really, in the end, what else was there? Later that night, after the guests had gone home and Valentina had finally fallen asleep in her flower girl dress, Mariana and Rodrigo stood on the balcony of their bedroom, looking out over the city that had brought them together. "I never thought I'd be happy again," Rodrigo said quietly. "After Camila, after everything, I thought I was destined to spend my life alone, buried in work, pretending that success was enough. And now, Now I know that success means nothing without someone to share it with, without love, without family, without purpose. He pulled her closer. You taught me that. You and Valentina. Mariana rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. We taught each other. I was just as lost as you were, just in a different way. I thought my career was my identity, and when I lost it, I didn't know who I was anymore. And now, she smiled. Now I know that who I am has nothing to do with titles or positions. I'm a healer, a mother, a wife, a fighter. Those things are true whether I'm in a fancy hospital or a community clinic. You could still work in a fancy hospital if you wanted. My lawyers have been talking to the medical board. With everything that's come out about Dr. Villarreal and the corruption at Hospital Angeles, they're prepared to reinstate your license with a formal apology. I know. I got the letter last week. You didn't tell me. I was still deciding what to do about it. She looked up at him. I think I'll decline the apology. Why? Because I don't need them to validate what I already know. I did the right thing and I'd do it again. Their approval doesn't change that. She smiled. Besides, the clinic needs me, and I've discovered that I like being needed. Rodrigo kissed her forehead. Have I mentioned how much I love you? Once or twice, but I don't mind hearing it again. I love you, Mariana Mendoza. Today, tomorrow, and every day after that. Thank you for being stubborn enough to save my daughter and brave enough to fall in love with a man who didn't deserve you. You deserve more than you know, she said. And I plan to spend the rest of our lives proving it. In the room down the hall, Valentina slept peacefully, undisturbed by pain. The scars behind her ear would fade, but the love that healed her would only grow stronger. Because that's what love does. It heals. And in the Mendoza household, love had found its home.